JJ Joe will be joining us on Mondays at about right now at around 4:45 to look back and also look forward and also discuss teams around the Big 12 and much more. Greg Smoke, Paul Catalina, and David Smoke. JJ, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. When will you know whether or not Blake Shapen is different than he was last year? Will it be a throw? Will it be how they play against Texas State? Will it be when they're tested even maybe more so by Utah?
How have you guys been doing? I'm glad we're almost back to another season. So I'll tell you, I've been following all the news, and of course, I came down in the spring, got to see the summer spring and the spring game. And really, for Blake, I do expect Smoke will leap. Be honest with you, because all I can do is think about my personal experience. Where I had a year where I played 4 or 5 games, then I played a full season, then I came back. So I expect him to play much better, and I don't think we'll really know until he faces Utah, because Utah will be a really good team, and he will catch a little heat. His progressions will be sped up, and he'll have to make some plays and things happen, and we'll just have to see how he performs.
What do you think the biggest challenge outside of him on offense will be? Rebuilding an offensive line or finding wide receivers that can make plays for him?
That's an interesting question. I really think that the receivers will be much better. We got to remember, they were breaking in a lot of young guys last year. That was my concern last year. We had a great line coming back, but I think Coach overestimated a little bit the impact of, the lack of experience on the edge. And we saw it in the BYU game early. Monterey went out. No one else was out there really to kind of make plays. And we felt, the loss of Taekwon and Estrada and all those guys. So I tell you, I am concerned about the line. That's where everything starts. And the good news, you had a couple of really good transfers in the Barrington brothers and some young guys that'll come along. But up front is where I start. I know the defense has some stuff they got to work on, but man, if those front 5 guys don't pull it together, it'll be a long season in a hurry. So I'm really interested after losing so many great guys from up front.
JJ, looks like the running back room will be healthy and have some pretty good numbers to start off with. That was obviously a big part of last year. Right out of the gates was Tay McWilliams getting hurt, and then just your depth was gone pretty much right away. With Richard Reese, though, in particular, after getting thrown to the wolves the way he was and getting all the carries that he did as a true freshman, how do you look for him to improve now with all that experience behind him in a full offseason?
Well, I'm looking for big things. I really like the backfield combination. Man, when I heard about Aquilin, I was sick because I figured the way we like to run the ball, it really was going to be great to have those 3 guys. But I think with Reese and I believe it's Richardson, I really think they could be a great 1-2 punch. My only concern is durability, and Reese did a great job last year. But this year you're going behind a new set of guys up front, and it just takes a little time. And the challenge will be for this group of guys is that the runners, Reese and Richardson, is that you have this new group that's trying to figure it out, and in week 2 you got these guys who can really play football coming down. And it may be one of those games where the line steps up and they play really well, or it may be one of those games where Blake, as the veteran now, has to carry just a little bit more to get him through that game. And I'm thinking that may be the kind of game it's going to be. And that's why I say by week 2, I think we'll know where Blake is. And the pressure will be on to see if Sawyer comes in, or Blake will be then talking about, hey, potential postseason stuff already. So we'll see.
How much can Richard Reese get more physical but still remain who he is? In other words, whether it's 2 pounds or 3 pounds or 4 pounds, I don't know. He can't put on too much without all of a sudden losing what he is. But with just an off season of weight and the strength and conditioning help him?
Oh, definitely. It's interesting. I think Reese played last year, like 170, 180. I mean, he was small. Literally small. I don't know the exact size, but I mean, Ricky was saying, he's like, yeah, this guy's small. And that's one of our concerns. And maybe he's 190, but But I remember a teammate of mine, actually David Mims, he played in the league a few years. I remember Dave came to Baylor from Dangerfield at 5'9", 168. And he could run. Elusive. He was that string of really good, great Dangerfield teams. He played on a couple of those. But when Dave left, his last 2 years, Dave was 5'9", 205. And he ran a 4.35 and was elusive. So I think Reese is in that category. It's some guys who can put on weight and it's well distributed and they don't really lose much. And I think Reese is one of those guys. So we'll see. But I think he has a lot of room to put on that frame. Maybe I'm not going to say it's 30 pounds, but I think he has about 15 that he can put on his frame, and we still have the same Richard Reese.
JJ, I covered David Mims and those great Dangerfield teams. He listens. I'm not sure if he's watching today. He loves this show. So if he is today, I bet he has a big old smile on his face.
That's my man. We were roommates, so I had to give him some love. But David was a small guy. He was one of those guys that Taft recruited. Taft was great for finding guys and developing in them, and David was one of those.
JJ, one of the things that Coach Aranda had to do was kind of get the locker room back into alignment, so to speak, kind of like a chiropractor, and there were a lot of transfers out. Additions by subtraction is not really the term I would like to use because some of these guys will probably help the places that they go, but in an emotional sense, which is something that is very big for Dave Aranda, is that really what he was going for was, even if it comes down to play on the field 1A or B, if it's really person over player, you have to get everybody in lockstep, 1 through 100, everybody who's in that locker room.
Yeah, I'm really glad for Coach David. I'm interested to see this year. I think this will be, I'm not going to say the first year, but one of those key years where it's really his. He won't have the remnants of a rural staff. And I think we underestimated a little bit, the loss of some of those coaches like McGuire and its others. And, a lot of those players were close to those guys. And then if you listen to Coach during the year, I remember him talking about, weaponizing poor performance and some stuff. So I think it was an overhaul where he needed to change some players, maybe some players that after a couple of championship game appearances, 1 win, 1 loss or whatever, felt a little entitled. He lost some really, really good veteran players from Bernard and Petrie and all those guys. And then I just think the mix wasn't working. And maybe he, like he said, he wasn't as tough as he needed to be. So I think he has the staff in place. He has the kind of players he wants. They're young a little bit in some places. But I think all of that needs to happen. He needs to change Coach Robert. He needs to do all those changes. And we'll see how effective they are here in this first go at it. But I anticipate them to be a very competitive team, and then we'll see if they can win some of those close games.
JJ, this is, aside from Baylor, but Baylor related, what have you made of the last month or so and all of the chaos of realignment and knowing now that, hey, this is you're about to enter a very unique year as a broadcaster. The final Texas game, no Oklahoma, although the final run for them in the Big 12, of course, the 4 new schools, and then next year, now 4 more coming in. Just a lot to kind of take in, but what has been your thoughts on watching the shifting landscape of the Big 12 and college football?
I'll tell you, I'm happy for Baylor because for a while there, you guys know, man, when this thing first started, I'm thinking that, we may be in a conference that, we're all just wishing we weren't in or something. But I love the new Big 12. I love what Yormark has done. I think I posted something like, hey, man, he was a godsend for us, really. But I like where we ended up, and I'm looking forward to it. We've got some really nice places to go, a very competitive conference. And I really still believe, while this thing will be crazy, I really still believe that college football will still be pretty relatively regional. It'll look a little different. We probably won't play UT or A&M, maybe once every 20 years if we're lucky. But it's been crazy. I think it still has a little bit of steam left. But I really thought college football, it's just, and I'm on this side. I just feel like it's such big business now in this country. If something's big business, 2 things have to happen. Eventually, everyone has to share in the pie, and that starts to happen. It's just the way our country runs. And the second thing is that, eventually, football, they'll have to make a decision if football keeps being governed by the NCAA and stays under this model. It's just a really big business, and it'll be interesting to see what the next 5 to 10 years look like.
JJ, do you have any of the new schools that you're looking forward to as a broadcaster visiting maybe the most?
We went to BYU last year, man, and that was really good. That was a beautiful place. Not looking forward to going there in November or anything, but that was great. Going to BYU, kind of Salt Lake City is just north of there, so that's not that big. But I've been to Arizona, right? I was hoping that we would probably get a sniff of Oregon, but I knew Oregon and Washington they were really holding out for the big. But I'd never been to Oregon. I was hoping to kind of get that run. We've been to Seattle, but not to Eugene. So I'm looking forward to all those new places, man. I really am, and I think it's going to be a great run, I think.
JJ, as a quarterback, back to when I opened up about Shapen, the improvement in the offseason. Is there more improvement during spring, or is it during August, or is it too late to improve too much when you get to August?
That's a great question. I think the off season is essential because there's a lot of stuff that happens. The strength and conditioning coaches are going to get you right, so you don't have to really worry about it. Am I going to be stronger, faster, more agile? They're going to get you there whether you want to get there or not. I think it's the stuff that I've read from Blake, and I've watched several interviews from him, and what I like to hear was the film study. Number one, he saw what teams were doing to him, and you have to be able to watch video and film over the off season to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do this year. This is the look they gave me, and be prepared to adjust to that. And the spring can help you with that. Spring, when you actually are able to get on the field. And then for Blake, I think really it's the technical work. I'll be interested to see what kind of technical work he put in, and you really can't tell what that's going to be until he gets under the heat. Spring, they don't put you under the heat. He's not getting hit. You don't know what you're going to do with your feet, your eyes, and your mechanics and all that until the bullets get to flying for real. And trust me, they won't fly. I mean, Texas State is going to be it's going to be a contest, but Baylor should find a way to win that game. And they really won't start flying until Utah comes because they're going to bring some noise, they're going to bring heat, and then we'll see technically if he's put it together. But really, I think that offseason is very important, Mo.
JJ, we appreciate your time. Look forward to this on Mondays with you. JJ Joe, former Baylor quarterback, Baylor radio analyst with us on 365 Sports. Coming up.